You also go on and talk about in the book kind of infrastructure spending as well. And like I know something was passed in the U.S. recently, and it was like a bill that was designed to combat inflation. I forgot the name of it.
It was called the Inflation Reduction Act,
right.
Yes.
Which most people thought was just the most ridiculous thing because it was only going to do everything but push inflation up. Maybe speak on that, a little briefly. How do you see something like that, and how does that feed into some of the things that you talk about in the book?
So one of the things I do talk about in the book, in the chapter where I address inflation and infrastructure and inequality, the 3 I's, I actually address them all in one chapter. And I do that because they're related. Now, infrastructure in general, building the technologies, the physical constructs that are needed to basically allow populations to move from A to B, to live in different places, to sort of expand their general horizons. Like all of that stuff I think is good. I loved riding the fast train when I was traveling a number of years back from Beijing to Shanghai because the airport was closed for whatever the reason it does often there in Shanghai, and I needed to get from point A to B, and I took a fast train. It was really, really fast. And we don't have anything like that in the United States. So the idea of like developing technologies and infrastructure to be able to have that happen, I think is a very positive thing. I mean, I think it can ultimately grow the foundation of an economy in a really positive way. But what happens is when money is appropriated too quickly and the financial industry gets involved and sort of pushes the value of some of the companies or the technologies that might be involved up by more than they should be valued at, even given the fact that they're creating a growing infrastructure, a growing economy, that's when these distortions kind of come into play as well, because the idea of money is basically getting ahead of the reality of that money being spent to build and create and innovate in a sort of more organic way, which I think is more stabilizing for an economy. So I always believe that if the government, for example, in that case, the Inflation Reduction Act, and I think I said in a number of places publicly that it does not actually reduce inflation, but there were pieces of it that allowed for the funding of certain technologies, for example, in the energy space, that if those are built, will ultimately help with energy solutions. But again, that you have to basically look at a timeline of things being developed and people being involved and materials being available and needed and everything else. So I'm very much a realist when it comes to just life. And I do believe that when there's money available and it's organically created and used, and there's strategies and things are built and people use them, and it makes our lives better in multiple different ways, that's a positive thing. But when too much money chases too quickly items that might not necessarily do that or might not have an actual plan to getting there, that's when we have more sort of distortions created.
There's a line that came from you, and you said, the reality is that money, like a virus, will always seek the easiest way to reproduce itself. I've never heard anyone say that, but you. What do you mean by that, Nomi?
So I wrote the book in the wake of the pandemic, so the idea of virus was obviously forefront in my mind and in the mind of everyone in the world, I think, at the time. But when I thought about money and just the flow of money, that money doesn't have patience, right? Just like a virus doesn't necessarily have patience. It's just going to go from host to host, and it's going to do what it's going to do as fast as it can. And it's sort of the same thing with money. And particularly when it's driven by central banks fabricating it out of nowhere and by the financial community using it as quickly as it can to basically reproduce itself and then go away and do something else. So you're talking about infrastructure. If money is just basically created and there's no plan as to how it's going to ultimately play out for creating lasting pieces of the economy, then it's just used to go from one financial asset to another financial asset, sometimes maybe at the same time. And in that way, anyone who's involved makes money, right? Money makes money. The larger institutions profit. The people that are participating in the financial markets buy the most, profit the most. And that accelerates that whole thing. Like a virus, it just accelerates.
Yeah, God, that's a little scary to think about. Because if money gets thrown the wrong way, if it's cheap money, if it's being pushed here or there, not for maybe a natural reason or a Adam Smith invisible hand reason, then not only will it just be misappropriated for that point in time, it could create entire new industries, systems. Maybe that's what Wall Street is in itself, where it's this own beast with almost its own, intelligence that goes on to create more, because that's what it does. And then when it attracts more money, it attracts more talent, and the talent's good at making more of that money. I guess that's what you're talking about. That can get a little dark.
No,
right?
but that's exactly how I see it. Is there's nothing necessarily wrong with making money, right? And there's nothing wrong with sort of working and investing and saving and producing and enjoying so the benefits in life that money can provide. It's that unmooring of that basic relationship to this external sort of source of inflating money for just a small little echelon of society and of the markets, and therefore creating that sort of larger distortion between the reality of what money that is actually produced can do and money that's just fabricated out of nowhere creates.
Yeah, and that's this distortion that you're talking about.
Right.
I'm looking for partners, collaborators, colleagues who want to join forces with me around the globe and create real value, generational wealth, and financial freedom for everyone else around the world. Get involved in the cryptocurrency markets, get involved in the NFT markets. This is your moment. Life all comes down to a few moments. Don't let this pass. Now it's not too late. Next year's going to be too late. Ultimately, this is about freedom. That's the way I see it. This is about giving power back to the people and enabling billions of people worldwide to use the financial markets to improve their lives and those of their friends and their families and their communities. Honestly, I think it's a violation of human rights not to allow people basic access to financial services. Because right now people are being kept in the dark, they're being robbed of education, and it's a travesty. And so I'm looking for people that want to join me and be a part of this solution. And that all happens inside the DeFi Academy. The gains my students are making are absolutely amazing. Double, triple-digit gains in the first month alone. That's amazing. This will change your life. Now is the time to get involved. I'm going to tell you exactly how my students in my academy made money in the last 30 days. I'm talking about real trading results. And let me just whet your appetite a little bit. Let me hit you with some numbers. I'm talking Brendan from New Zealand is up 68.77% on the month. Steve from Europe up 83%. Albert in Singapore up 169.9% on one single trade. I got Susan up 153% on her call options alone, also rocking 139% returns and 442% returns as well on individual trades. These are people that are changing their financial future in the last 30 days, but it's based on trading discipline.
I've graduated over 500 students from inside my academy from over 54 countries around the world. It's amazing. When it comes to crypto, DeFi, and blockchain, we love this space. We truly believe it's the future. This is down to our core. It's authentic to what we're doing, and everybody can tell through the camera because you can't make this stuff up.
If you're watching me now, wherever you are, I implore you, take 60 seconds right now and join my academy. Apply today. Now you've got a chance. Life all comes down to a few moments. What are you going to do? What's the choice that you're going to make?